Yay, hello, hello, and welcome to this Tuesday's Training Tuesday Live. We're magnet marketers. Our goal is always to help you become a magnet with your marketing instead of being a bullhorn. And today we're talking about Facebook groups. So I know there's such a huge rise in people both participating in Facebook groups as well as businesses, brands, and individuals looking to potentially start a group because it's a great way of building an online community, especially in the age of dark social. We want to break down some things you should consider if you haven't already before you get that group going. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty goodness, if we've not met before, hello. My name is Jessica Phillips with Now Marketing Group in the Relationship Marketing System. And my awesome co-host, as always, it's Mike Gingrich. He's the president of Digital Hill, the co-founder of the popular apps Loftio, a tab site, and a published author extraordinaire. How's your Tuesday going, Mike?
Hey, not too bad. It's zipping along, and you know what? I'm going to have another book to add to that list. I've had some extra time on my hands here, so.
Put you in quarantine, it's like super creator, right? Meanwhile, I'm getting my second big, huge cup of coffee just to get through the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I've been creating more too, honestly, like switching some project management systems and all kinds of fun stuff in the background. But, client work, kiddo stuff always comes first. But that's where our communities come in, and a way that we can really lean on each other for times where we're not sure, hey, we're moving in the right direction. Hey, can I get some support from things? Like, I love Facebook groups. As you know, I've been kind of talking about this for a while, predicted, I think it was like 2015, that Facebook groups were going to take over, and now they are. So are you in several groups as well, Mike?
Yeah, several. Yeah, absolutely. And they stream the kind of the gamut from small to very large, from simple to what I would call complex. So I think we'll kind of dive into those things. But yeah.
Yeah. And so, simple meaning just like a connection group, and some people that are just, creating a group for what I like to call a pop-up group, or what our good friend Bella, that is like the Facebook group's queen. Shout out to you, Bella. I know you've been at Social Media Week Lima, also Social Media Marketing World, and several other events. And I'm really talking about best practices as it comes to groups and how it can be utilized. And she really shares stories on how Facebook groups are, really connected around a common purpose or theme, whether that be a personal thing in your life going on. She shares her personal story of how she used it to really get through a challenging point in her life, with when her daughter was born prematurely, as well as, using it professionally to connect with other like-minded individuals, to just as a support for what it is that you're doing, and a way to monetize and value add what you're currently doing. She's doing something really amazing right now with a pop-up group, which definition of pop-up group is something it's not meant to live forever, but it's a short-term kind of group. And that's going to be kind of one of our points as we get into the nitty-gritty. But thinking about the groups that you're in now and which ones that you really get value added as being part of that group community is what I really want you to think about as we dive into the questions that you should then consider before creating a group for even your personal or your business life, right? Because we are moving into this time of dark social, a lot different than the dark web. And we've talked about it a lot over the past 8 to 12 months here, which just means that what's happening in social media is moving into the inbox, into private niche communities, into just what we're talking about, things like Facebook groups or Messenger or other apps that are really focused on micro communities. So taking advantage of this opportunity to create a group is definitely something that's on several business owners' minds, especially as Facebook releases a Super Bowl commercial, focusing on Facebook groups, and where Mark Zuckerberg and several others are saying the future of social is private. So they're on it too.
Oh yeah. When Zuckerberg outlines it and chooses to outline it as a Super Bowl commercial, then you know with the money they're putting behind that, that's where they're seeing the trends go. That's what's important to them. That's what they're trying to make people aware of.
Absolutely. So yeah, investing in it, they have some stake in it. So as we dive into some things to consider, we do want to hear from you, our community, on if you are participating in groups, whether that's a Facebook group, maybe it's a LinkedIn group that's still active. Several of those have kind of fizzled out for me, I feel like. But if you are part of a group, what are some of the ones that you love, and why do you love being part of that community? We want to hear from you and see which ones that we should check out. And then we're going to dive into our list of some things to consider before creating, or maybe you just created one, some things you can go back and consider in order to make your group a true community. Because when it's thriving, it's amazing. Like I love our Social Media Week Lima group. I love Agora Paulson's group. I love so many groups, but they all have things in common, which are what we're going to talk about here. The ones that it makes the difference of just creating one that's just another thing to manage. It's not really doing anything, or creating one that's actually doing its purpose, which is to build community.
Yeah. But hold on right there,
Yeah.
and don't just skip past that quickly, because too many people, I think, have they can go into it with a different mindset than building community, and then they wonder why this really isn't working. So that's what you just said is not something to take lightly. Let's make sure those listening get a hold of that to build community.
Yeah, and that's its purpose. So, and you're right. Some people are thinking, okay, I know now that I need to build a Facebook group. So they're looking at it like, oh, I'm just going to take my brand name and now make it a group. Or they take it, something different where it's like, okay, just the theme of their business. So maybe like ours is marketing, for example, with Now Marketing Group, and I could just create a marketing group. But the key is to know several different questions that we're going to ask, but really to think about first. I love, again, I'm going to give Bella a shout out just because she's the queen of groups, and I love her analogy so much. But her analogy is thinking of your business page. And if you're really considering building a group and wanting to know, why do I need to do this? What is the difference, right? And she talks about her business page and everyone's business page being the front yard. If you think about it like a front yard, meaning that this is the place where, everything is nice and looks, polished, and people are coming there and you're greeting them, in the way that you would when somebody comes to your front door, versus backyard is the place where you're inviting people that are truly building a connection with you, where you're going to throw a party potentially, and people are going to go off while you're maybe hosting this party and you're grilling. People are going to be having conversation in the side by the pool. They're going to be drinking drinks and, sunbathing, potentially swimming in the pool, and you would never have those kinds of things in your front yard. That's the difference between a business page and a group. Yeah. Is the place where you're really getting to know people on a meaningful level, where they're actually participating in the conversation, hopefully even more in some cases it's beneficial than you facilitating and starting kind of that welcoming opening to your front door conversation. This is where, it comes from just somebody being a follower to a true fan of your business, right? Somebody that's part of your community to being now a collaborator with you, as we like to say in the relationship marketing terms. So quick shout out. Hello, Amy. Hello, April. Good to see you on here as well.
April.
Analogy of that.
Yeah, no, I really like the analogy, because I mean, with the front yard, I mean, in a page, a Facebook page, I mean, anybody can go by, right? I mean, you might be there and you might wave at them, that type of thing. So there's, the traffic can go by and they see you, they see the front, but that's there's, it's really, you're the only one there. I mean, if someone else is standing in your front yard at waving at people, that's weird, right? But if you're there and somebody goes by and you wave at them, whatever, okay, that's your place. You're connecting with them. But if you've invited them to the backyard for a party, right, that's where lots of interconnections are happening, right? They're not expecting you to be the only one talking and you only with a whole group, but the group intermixes there, right, in the backyard. So that's exactly. I love the analogy.
Exactly. So now that we've laid out kind of the difference between what your business page purpose is going to be, and then if you are considering to create a group, because you don't necessarily have to create a group to build community for your brand. It could be that there's already one that exists that you can just participate in, and you can join as either yourself or a business page, right?
Yeah.
But and participate in other groups, and you should regardless. But if you are thinking about building a group, that's the first thing that you need to consider is, okay, what's already out there, and what is the purpose and the value add that my group is going to bring that is really aligned with what I really want people to help, what I want to help people with, like either 3 pain points that you're trying to help them solve or a goal that you're trying to help them reach that has some synergy around what your business purpose is. So it does not have to be the same exact thing. It can just be some synergy that is aligned with your business. Does that make sense?
Does to me. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think that people really need to take into account, what's the purpose going to be, and is it needed? And, is there,
that's a big one.
Yeah. Is there anything else out there? And, and then, I mean, we'll get into that. Do I have the time? Those type of things.
Yeah. Is it needed? That's a really good question. Like, what is the value of it? What is someone going to want to join another thing in order to get out of? So I'll give you an example. A pretty basic one. We worked with a career staffing company, right? And their goal, of course, is to help people find jobs, one, and they're looking to recruit them to fulfill those jobs, but also the companies to, supply the jobs to fulfill. So an easy one for them is to create a group around jobs in X county, like jobs in Allen County, jobs in Indiana, or jobs in Pennsylvania, wherever. And creating it around that county, but now they have to know, okay, here's the pain points I'm trying to solve, but this isn't just going to be my voice that's going to be sharing in here because it's the backyard, right? So there's potentially, in order to serve that goal, you really have to think about, if this is really truly my goal of helping people reach it, I need to know that there's going to be other people participating, potentially, and hopefully posting the jobs that they have available that isn't coming from the staffing company, and people that are applying for positions or wanting to look for positions that may not be fulfilled with this company yet. Because the goal, again, the ultimate goal is to build community and grow yourself as that trusted brand and facilitator of this group that's hopefully building community and relationships that will then ultimately transition into something else. But this is a conversation and community that isn't all about you. It's not all about your brand. It's going to be around the purpose, the goal of what's needed, as you said, which I love that, to solve the problem or help people reach the goal that you're wanting them to reach.
And that's a big clarification or point to emphasize, I should say, because if a business is just looking for a way to share some of their information, and that's what their mentality is behind it, the group's not going to work.
Yeah. If they're like, oh, this is a quick way for me now, I know the pages are, declining in engagement, so I'm just going to build a group and kind of put that same message there in hopes to sell faster. No. It's actually not going to work that way. You do have to do more work. It is expected that you're not going to be sales pitchy in there as a verb, and that you are truly there to build community. People will be able to spot the difference in a minute. If you invite people to your backyard, using Bella's example again, and they're just there for like this bait and switch, I invited you all to this party, but I want you to sign up for my business for just $4.95, and then you kind of are trying to block the exit, people are going to leave and not come back.
Yeah. And then you won't get engagement because nobody's going to post anything. They're going to try to stay away. You're going to be the only one posting, so then engagement's down, and it's just going to fade and flop, that type of thing.
Yeah. So you have to know that's the key. That is the foundation of everything, is knowing what the purpose is. What is the goal? What are the 3 things that you think they're going to be able to take away that's going to help them solve this pain point? And is it something they need right now? Is it something that is going to be something that they should be willing to or want to spend time on that's going to be a value added at the end of the day for them. And the next question we kind of touched on a little bit with time, do you have the time to manage it? So asking your questions up front first before you even start with the going to the page chat and building it. And then we have a lot of other questions that you should ask yourself there. But is this something that I truly have time to chaperone, if you will, and be part of facilitating this conversation? Because people need to know that their input is welcome, that others are going to listen, and that it's a place where you are fully attentive to what's going on there. It takes time to build it up. It's not a just build it one time and then you set it up, invite a bunch of people, and it starts taking off. You have to be get people comfortable with each other. Be the good host for that group.
Yes, absolutely. And again, kind of based on the size and that type of thing. I mean, the larger the group, and maybe even for a small group in many ways, you have to be kind of prepared to have a few chaperones, as you call them, kind of thing, just so that it's not all. So do you have that? Do you have more than just yourself? Because it's a ton of work if it's just one person. But if you can have a little bit of a team there, then that can be very valuable. So consider that carefully.
Absolutely. Look for people that are thought to be kind of those conversation starters, are really good community managers. And that's the title that really it is of somebody that's managing the group. It can be a community manager too. So I'll give you a couple examples of this for Social Media with Lima. It's an event that we have once a year, hopefully coming up. We postponed it until July of this year instead of June. But in that group, it's something that stays active all year long. And am I able to post in there every single day thoughtfully? Not right now. However, I've looked for community managers that could be a great support for me, that they have their own tone of voice that's going to resonate with others in the group. And they're a great facilitator, not only to start conversations, but respond to them as they come in. Because if people are asking questions and if it's going, deaf ears and nobody's responding, people aren't going to go back there as that source of good information. So we looked for a couple community managers, one person that is just really connected with a lot of people in the community that I thought would be a great conversationalist. And then another to really work with people on helping them kind of get outside of their comfort zone a little bit to want to share. And we'd feature them in that group. So really have two additional community managers besides the ones on our team that aren't necessarily part of our employee roster, if you will, but it's just people that I knew would be a really great team member to work with us in that group. So their jobs are
skill set.
What's that?
They had specific skill sets you were looking for.
Exactly. Yes. And that's key too, right? Like, you can trust them. They're speaking on behalf of your brand and your mission. And so you want to make sure that it's somebody that isn't just knowledgeable on how to post.
Right.
But also can keep and maintain the vibe that you're wanting to keep in that group in a thoughtful way, because they're now an ambassador for your company. So they're speaking on your behalf. So that's definitely something to consider too. So if you've kind of met those benchmarks of questions first before you even get started, now it's time to, I think, really get into the nitty gritty. We know our purpose of the group, kind of who, I guess we didn't say the who, but that's something to consider as you're thinking about building it, the who of who do you want involved in it, who's going to be there, and why they're going to want to be there and spend their time there. And then how are you going to keep it updated and keep that conversation going, right? Those are the first questions, I think, that we tell everybody to ask themselves.
Yep.
Any I missed there?
No, I was just looking at the same comment that you just put up there from April there. Value, and more value in a safe place. Again, that's safe, yes, with like-minded people. So safe meaning that you're not trying to get sold, that type of thing. And there's no one's, attacking someone for sharing something or making them feel stupid or, anything like that. It's a value in a safe environment.
And this really does help kind of transition really nicely into the next things that you need to consider, especially as you're thinking a safe place. when you decide, okay, here's how I'm building the group and here's what I want to create, here's who I'm going to want to have in it, here's how I'm going to manage it. Now, how are we going to keep it a safe place where we can be mindful of who's going to be involved? Because there's many ways of building a group. You can either do it as a public group, which just means anybody can search, find it, and request to join the group, which will open you up to many people doing just that, right? Or you can create it as what's called a private group, where people can search it and find it, but they can't join it unless they're requesting to join. Or you can create a secret group where it's not searchable, it's not something that people are going to find online. You are adding people manually. So those are 3 different ways of building your group, and it really just depends on your goal of the group. So in the case of like Social Media Week Lima, we created it as a private group because we wanted to keep it to only the attendees, current and past for a while, that have been part of the Social Media Week Lima experience, because then they're able to understand kind of the tone, what we're talking about. They're able to add thoughtful and valuable conversation. And I think they'll take it a little bit more seriously, because their goal hopefully is in there to build community with others and learn from one another, versus us just creating as a public group to try to sell tickets, right? That's not the goal of that group at all.
Yep. Now, and then, so definitely, I mean, that's what you want it connected to those who have attended. So that's a destination there for groups where you're maybe considering that community, which you want it to grow. There's still the public group that also you can set it to kind of have some, filters so that you can ask maybe, a few questions ahead of time. So you force people to kind of go through this and answer some specific questions, and even like maybe agree to your terms, that says you can do this, you can't do this type piece there. So it's public with a filtering process that allows you to then kind of have a check and balance going forward.
Absolutely. I love Bella's comment on here. Preach. I was like, girl, we were speaking and singing your praises on here. But yeah, that's exactly right. So not only you just hit on the next point, so deciding on how you want to get it set up. So I'll give you kind of an instance of why you might want to have a private group. So secret groups. I've had some secret groups for my coaching program. So I've had group coaching where I only wanted to limit it to only the members of that coaching program. So I wanted to have that secret. I didn't want to have it for anyone to search and find it. And also team members, and then even our clients, right? So we have a client group that's all just providing, here's what we just found out on Facebook that rolled out, things like that we want to keep limited to them. Private is always the one I most often choose, though, and that's just like the example I shared with Social Media Week Lima, to have those restrictions there, because then in the group, after we decide our purpose, then we can think of a name for the group, right, and who we want to have invited, and set up the settings of it. But then you can go in and you want to make sure that you're setting up the group rules, as you were just mentioning, Mike, for that on what we expect the code of conduct to be in the group, which Facebook gives you kind of a template of no bullying, no harassment, respecting everyone's privacy, and no spam. And then you can set up in your group, and you want to make sure you do this not only from the rules aspect, but because it's beneficial to the group as well to get some intel on who's joining. You can set up some questions in the group before someone joins. This also makes sure that's kind of like people are really serious about joining it. So it may be something just as simple as, where you're from, kind of your background, and then like a question that we ask in one of our relationships and ROI group is, what's their biggest marketing challenge right now? Or what are they hoping to get out of the group? And you can put those questions in ahead of someone being able to join. That way you know what you want to know about them. It could be something like I'm asking, like, what are you hoping to get out of this? What role do you have within your position right now? Or it could just be something as little as, have you participated in one of our Social Media Week Limas? before, right? If it's the Social Media Week Lima group. And that way you're able to get some information. And more than anything, when you get a membership request to join, you can see who's filled out those answers and who hasn't. And if somebody has skipped all the answers to it, unless I personally know them and thought they must have overlooked it, I do not accept them into the group.
Got it. Yep. And so again, that's the next tier then, is what type of groups it's going to be. And again, that's based on the purpose there. So your private coaching clients. Okay. So that's a limited audience. That's why you keep it secret. So I think all those things make sense. These are just key considerations. I mean, so
Yeah.
hopefully people are understanding, they're not just thinking, yeah, I just want to create a group. Like, where do I start? Kind of things. We're saying there's a number of steps
And
here.
not just the privacy settings, right? Like, really, you have to decide also what kind of group. There's another step that Facebook added in, because now there's groups that are based upon networking. There's ones that are based upon work, which is really cool, because then you don't have to be friends with somebody to add them to the group. I mean, you can't always send an email, but your personal information is not shared if somebody were to click on your profile based upon being in that group and being able to see your personal page. So I know some people are funny with that. You can set it up as a learning unit or educational, if you will, because then your group is split up into what's called units, to where you can have it. And I've done this before when I've done a training. We partnered with the Chamber of Commerce and did a business accelerator program training course that was like 6 weeks long. And we did those in person and live stream when we couldn't meet in person. And then each week I would take what we learned and put that as to that unit. And that's what Facebook calls it. But think of it as a section, right? That you want to train somebody on, or put as your learning unit. And then you can post your PDFs, your videos, your notes, all that is part of this one unit. So this one section there. So all that is going into consideration when you're deciding what kind of group am I setting up. So you get to that point when you get to the groups where you go to the settings of the group, and then Facebook will ask you those series of questions. All right. So, Mike, have you created a group before? I think you have, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Have you done a learning unit one yet?
I've experimented with it, but I don't have one active that I am pushing for. So I've done it just to kind of look around at those and to figure out, because that one, to me, that's a serious commitment there. Yeah. And so that one's not to be taken lightly.
Yeah, and that could be, again, one of those pop-up groups. So like, for example, when we created it for the chamber, I'm like, hey, I'm going to give you access to this group, but I'm setting the expectation that this is something that you can pop in and ask questions, but it's not going to be managed forever. Does that make sense? So like, I think that's the other thing of setting expectations. Either the group's going to expire or you're going to have access to it, but it's not something I'm going to be posting in after X point. So, and I think everybody in the group has been really respectful of that. And I'm like, hey, if you want assistance though ongoing, you're welcome to join my long-term group, which is this, right? So that, again, going back to the beginning where we talked about pop-up, is it going to be a short-term group or something that's going to live on forever, kind of setting those expectations as well, because that's the last thing people need, is just one more thing to stay connected to and join. So setting that up, if you've not already, check that out. If you had a long-term standing group and you've not set up those settings, make sure you check that part out, adding the rules in, adding the questions in, because that is a really great way of collecting information. And there's some cool tools that if you are interested in creating this group as a way to even potentially build your email list or your opt-in list, or you can connect a couple tools that are out there to export the answers that people are putting in as part of those questions into something else, pipe it into something else, whether that be your lead list for your email, where you can ask the question if they're open to subscribing to that and getting more information, or do they want the download to X? Thinking about it almost like it could be potentially a way to get leads outside of Facebook too. So those settings, in addition to that, you'll also see one, if you've not went back there or you're getting ready to create one, you want to make sure that you're also putting in some keywords and letting Facebook know kind of what this group is about, because you can do a similar thing that they do with pages now, with associate your group like they do with pages on being suggested to other people that may be interested. Because if you go to the facebook.com/groups now, they're going to show you groups that they're suggesting for you, as well as groups that you've joined. But they're getting those suggestions based upon things that you're following or interested in following. And then they'll segment it accordingly, right? So is this group about local buying and selling groups? Is it about learning? Is it about what, right? So you can segment and filter to see what kinds of groups that you can join. And it's also a great way, when we talked about finding what other groups are out there, to see what other groups are out there, right? Like to find them out right there.
It's amazing how specific groups can be. You'd be surprised. I mean, like on Facebook, when you search for something, I've just been amazed at that, to go, in different things, and how they've multiplied, and there's active communities for narrow kind of niche topics, and you can find those, and they can be very valuable in that regard.
Yeah, there are definitely ones for every niche topic. I wish I could remember, and Bella, if you're still on, you should say some of them, but the niche groups that Facebook used in their commercial, she shared it in her presentation, Social Media Marketing World, and there was definitely some super niche groups that you would have thought of. And they had huge active communities as part of their group, which is really cool. It just goes to show there is a group for everything. So I highly encourage you to look at a group that you are interested in, as a topic that you're interested in personally too, and join it. Join an active one to see how it's done. Because really, even if you're creating it professionally, it should still work as a community builder. So you do need to decide as part of your group if you're going to be managing this as your business page or your personal profile, because that's another option you have, or you can kind of split it up a little bit. But looking at how you are participating in your groups and where you're finding value, I think when you can do it from a personal level and see what it's really like to be part of a good community, it really makes you think a little bit different on how am I doing this for my business, right? And really gets a sense of what you could do differently.
Yep. Yeah. And we've talked about this. It's not necessarily a direct sales tool at all. It's typically not a place of pitch kind of thing, but you want to talk about a tremendous opportunity for the whole know you, like you, trust you, to be experienced. That's what a group can be. I mean, how many times have I been in a group and just interacted with people that that led to something else, or that led to me wanting to collaborate with them, me wanting to do some type of business piece with them, just because of that community interaction. Again, it's just like that backyard. We went to a party. I didn't know them, but we met, and we had an engaging conversation, and they were interesting, and we said, hey, based on this common interest, we need to follow up and stay in touch on these things, and you do.
Yeah, and it's really cool too to participate as an individual, like you were just talking about, in these groups and how you can make connections. Like I love participating in ones before a conference, like Social Media Marketing World had a group, but then also they have other groups too where people are asking questions. And it's a great way, like you said, to think about collaborating or working with them. But when you show that you're there to provide value and you help answer their question, they're going to remember that, come back to you when they're looking to hire someone or potentially bring someone on for a job or a service that they're needing completed. So it's a great way of, just like you would at any event or anything, starting that conversation, adding value there first, and helping, because it always comes back to you in return. So a couple more things to consider when you're really building your group. And we talked about, setting it up, the questions you ask, all that. Now it's thinking about how to get people into the group, right? Like who do you invite and how do you invite them? So I always like to think of first I want to get the community managers or team members in there that are going to be helping me and getting them in there, and all the kind of cleanup done first, if you will. So adding videos or documents or anything I want in there first. But then having a list of people that I really want to invite to the group. And you can do that via, adding them as a friend that's connected with you in the invite section. Or Facebook has something really cool where you can do it via an email invite and send a little message with it to let them know why you're inviting them. And it's really important. Don't skip that. It's almost like, LinkedIn, the connections, don't just hit connect, but a little message there to let them know what you're inviting them.
Yes. Because we all have lots of things coming at us, right? And so you want to make sure that they know why that's important and why you're inviting them, why you think it'd be a good fit.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, keeping the group engaged, it almost is good right there after you get those people invited into the group, thinking about how am I going to get the conversation started? So that's the next step of questions to consider. Like, am I going to do something weekly, daily, to make a post, highlight the members that are joining, like what can you do to focus attention specifically on the people in that group to let them know this is really made for them and built for them. So going back to the example of Social Media Climate, worked with George Demanis, it was amazing, where it was like, hey, we know we're focusing a lot on the speakers in videos and posts and things that we're doing, but what about the attendees? Like, they have some really cool stories to share. What if we could do, behind the brand, talk a little bit about them? And so he's done short little videos, live videos in that group doing just that to get the attendees come even more comfortable with each other and talking a little bit about them. And that lets them know that we do value that, and we do. And I've learned so much more about the people in the group. Amy, that was on the chat here on Magnet Marketers, and she's been a fan of the show. We actually met at Social Media Day San Diego, but she joined the group, and I had no idea that she had started her business first as a coupon blog. We both worked at Verizon together. I knew that. I knew she had a digital agency, but I didn't know like her, legend story or whatever you want to call it, of how she really started her business. And it was kind of cool to find out more on her. And that's the key, like find out those things about people that are not just surface deep, right? Like you can get more to know somebody on a real level. So you have more conversation with them, you know a lot more about them. And so see what kinds of things that you can do in that group that are going to encourage people to participate and realize that they want to come back to the group and participate in the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, but I think what you said, I wanted to cover any of those points too. What you said about you don't want to just get it set up, even if you have a purpose, and then just kind of have it empty and invite some people in, kind of thing. So yeah. Get some of that groundwork, get some of those resources, get some of those posts, videos, things in there for them, so that there's an environment that helps people, understand the vibe that's coming.
Exactly. I love what Bella just said here. Just made 4 figures on a pop-up group in 2 weeks. Thanks for your guidance, Jessica. And what she's talking about there, she did a pop-up group. Again, going through all these settings, she already knows that, but she did it around the COVID-19 and what to do for these businesses that were kind of really nervous and scared about what was going to happen with their business, right? Like she's dealing with pet sitters and walkers that essentially are not able to do their job right now. And so she made this group, and she could have easily just said, okay, I guess I get a couple weeks off or a month off, whatever. But she made this group instead and brought in attorneys and, attorneys and tax accountants and, marketers and all these people that were value added individuals that were going to help these businesses kind of transition and pivot during this time so they could stay afloat. And at the same time, it was something that she was selling as an add-on. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be a lot of work to build community. It could be something that you're deciding at the very beginning. How am I going to use this group in order to build community, but also what's my end goal, right? Like, is it to generate money? Probably for most businesses, is a way to either generate money, or in my case, with our client group, it's to retain, and keep our clients there because they see that we are invested in them, and it's creating this VIP experience for them and focusing on them versus just a new audience to get them in. So deciding all that up front. And I even like to say, this is kind of like one of my last tips with this, but because I could go on forever with Facebook groups, but after you go through all that, I think it's really wise to go in your description of the settings and say the purpose of this group is to blank. Be bold with it. Let people know transparency of what your goals are and what they should be looking to get out of this group, because I think that's going to help them also decide, should I join this or not, right? Be really deliberate in that description, and then make it stupid simple for whomever you're wanting to join it to be able to find that group. So like in every email that we send out for our clients, we put, hey, did you know that we have a group just for you? At the end of it, we have the group name as a vanity link, short link at the top, which you can set up in your settings, all those things, and make sure that you're continually promoting it and being deliberate about how you're setting it up.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's see. Did we cover any questions that came up? Let's see. April was here, said that. Bella, you covered there. Got it. All right. Good. Yeah. I mean, there's always more we could do because
I'm sure.
Groups is evolving, but let's come back to where we started, and that is that Facebook did a Super Bowl commercial on it. Mm-hmm. So that they're seeing that as a thing of the future. And so it's a good thing to learn about, to understand some of the nuances, and to, again, I said, if you want to explore them, you should search and join a few groups to learn. That's a great way to do it.
Absolutely. I promise you're going to get a lot out of it by joining groups that are active. You'll learn a lot. Just try it, again, as a participant, and then think through what we just talked about in order to create your group. Or if you have one that you're looking to revive or keep thriving, consider some of the things that we suggested here. We will be recapping this as a blog. I want to say thank you to everyone that joined in with us this week and all those that are catching the replay. As always, we recap this on our blog at nowmarketinggroup.com/blog. And we'll put the link to all of our notes and some helpful videos right in that recap piece. So thank you all for joining in with us this week. Thank you, as always, Mike, for being here and your value and wealth of information, as always. I cannot believe this weekend is Easter weekend, so we hope everybody has a good holiday. Hopefully you're doing Zoom dinners with extended family and whatever you have to do during this time. But thanks again for tuning in with us. We'll be here next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Facebook page of Now Marketing Group. So anything else, Mike, you want to leave everyone with?
Stay well, folks. And just keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. Wise words to sign off on. So thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your week.
Take care.